was always a collector of something. All as far as I could remember, whether it was marbles or baseball cards or matchbook covers or something. I collected the whole set and all that. And so I had that collecting bug. And so when I got some money, I finally got, with Cheech and Chong, I had money to spend. I started collecting art.
By gifting the collection to the Riverside Art Museum, a museum that has a history of working in community, he has gifted this collection to a museum that opened a center dedicated to featuring this work, not every couple years, not every, Latinx Heritage Month, but every day, day in and day out, you can come and see this artwork. And so our responsibility here with the Riverside Art Museum and with the Cheech is to grow the collection.
I don't know. I look to be surprised.
I found Cheech, right? He invited me.
And awed.
I eventually met Cheech Marin and sold a painted 2 or 3 times what I thought it was worth.
And see something new.
He said, I have never seen anything like your work before.
But something that I recognize right away.
Cheech bought three of my pieces from Hollenbeck Park.
Maybe through Facebook, I would hear he'll be somewhere doing a book signing or doing a lecture, right, on Chicano art. So I'd always made it a point to have business cards on me. You took notice that every time I'd see him, that I was giving him a different card. It kept evolving. So we set up a studio visit, and that's when he bought his first pieces.
Ruben Guevara, real good friend, he said, hey, I got Cheech interested in a couple of your pieces. So I said, oh, Cheech, oh, man, yeah, go for it. Whatever you want to charge,
So I had 2 large Z-Clays that were in the Origin show in the Altura Community Gallery in the summer of 2023. And then I get a phone call from Esther when she told me that he wanted to come through. I don't know. I really feel like I was like having an out-of-body experience at that time, where I'm like, I'm here in my kitchen with Cheech Marin.
He just, offered me half, and it was a lot of money in those days. We both got a good deal.
A private collection is something that folks keep for themselves in their home. When it is donated and it becomes part of a public institution and it becomes part of a larger collection, as in the Riverside Art Museum's permanent collection, there's a responsibility that we have as museum folks to ensure that we are researching it, obviously taking care of it, exhibiting it, that we here are hoping at the Cheech to bridge the exhibition and education gap that has existed historically with Chicano art and art history.
I was prepared not to like it. I was prepared. They're taking down some of my favorite paintings, but I love this. I love this show. I mean, it's like, you have to, realize that this is going to be a long run of the paintings. They'll come down and they'll come reappear, and we'll lend some out. And so, but I was like taking down, and I don't know if this is working. But I walked in and it works perfectly. It's really beautiful.
What we're doing with every iteration is continuing to explore the gift. We have sculpture that we're showing. We have not shown sculpture since we've opened. And so we've had some recent donations of some beautiful sculptures. Photography, we've shown very little photography, so we're excited to bring out some of the photography. And continuing to bring out there's some large-scale paintings, which Cheech is also known to collect, that are coming out that haven't been seen.
And it's just such a thrill to see people come in this building, and bring their families and their grandmas, and then you see them coming again and again. It's like, just like I don't know if I'll ever have a bigger thrill than that. It's just all the things I've ever done, and they're successful, and it caused me a lot of joy. This is by far the biggest thing.
I've always just wanted to make art. I've always just wanted to create.
I've always had the passion for art ever since I was a kid.
I was actually born an artist.
You know, ever since I can remember, since I was a child, I had the dream of being an artist.
You know, an artist is born an artist. When you're a real, true artist, you always know it all your life.
Well, I've often told the story of how I came home from kindergarten or first grade and my dad saw my little crayon drawing and said, "You're an artist." And I thought, oh, that sounds great. I'll be an artist. That's wonderful.
I started drawing at 2. And from 2 years old, honestly, I always wanted to be an artist. That was always my passion.
Was really drawing horses at 5 years old. So I've been an artist all my life.
I was a kid that would draw the teacher, get in trouble, you know, draw my classmates. Would it be daydreaming, doodling instead of doing the assignment?
The artistic DNA runs in my family. It's a family thing.
I don't even know like when it kind of dawned on me that I want to, like my intention was to become an artist, because I think that was like maybe something I learned and discovered over the years of maybe what that meant or what like that could result in. So I think that's when I started maybe thinking about that a little more, maybe when in my late teens, like leaving high school, starting community college. I think that's when it became like an intention of something I wanted to pursue, but also explore, like what possibilities existed.
My first exhibition was in elementary school. I remember doing this drawing and the teacher picked it to hang it on the wall. When you did that, it was like the evening your parents come to visit the school. And I remember being excited about having my work on the wall. I was really young, but at the same time it caused great anxiety because I was very quiet. I had mixed feelings about it, but on the upside, it was a good feeling.
And when I got into my middle school, I thought I wanted to be an architect, somebody who made money doing art, but it took about 5 years of architecture, through high school and a little bit in college and all that. Realized that wasn't it. I had to go out there and just create my own art. How does one become an artist is really, really difficult because you need somebody to recognize you besides your parents.
Glenna Avila's the one that hooked me up. She was the director of the citywide mural program, and she commissioned me to do the 2 blue whales. That's where it started.
I remember being told I had great potential, and I remember running home and looking it up in the dictionary because I really didn't understand what that meant.
I met Magoo through a mutual friend, Paul Dunlap. Magoo himself was a teacher.
It was teachers who really supported me in that way and pushed me.
When I was 14, that's when I met Marcel Duchamp. And we had a conversation, and I asked him how does one become an artist? He said, you just have to do it.
He nurtured a young artist. He had a thing called the Mento Menudo. The first time he invited me to a Mento Menudo, I showed up on a Sunday hungry, I was like, so I'm asking Magoo, where's the menudo at? He's like, he started laughing. It's like, it's menudo for your brain. It's not for your stomach.
He gave me the green light that made me feel that I could be an artist by just not only doing the work, but to have some respect. And what I wanted to do was something that was not respectable, graffiti, So being an artist was difficult, but once you start, it's an addiction. You just don't stop.
I went to Roosevelt High.
It started at Garfield High School.
I would take all the art classes in middle school and high school.
I got a scholarship to go to Otis Art Institute when I was 14.
Roberto Chavez, who was like the first Chicano artist that I became aware of. And he came and did a mural live and painted in front of us. And he was teaching over at ELAC, East LA College. And I ended up moving across the street from ELAC in my senior year, and he invited me to audit his drawing class. And he was the teacher for Gilbert Lujan Magoo and Ofelia Esparza.
And then when I finally graduated from high school, I wanted to go to art school, and there was Chenard Art Institute of the Arts here in downtown Los Angeles.
Because luckily I went to the high school at a time where art was mandatory. And then I went off to East LA College, and I was really interested in drawing the human figure at that point, which is ironic because my work now is void of people. And then I went to Otis Art Institute here when it was on Wilshire.
And I told the teacher about it when I went to high school when I was 16 or 17, and he sent me again. And by the time I was done with high school, I was actually done with college. So.
I was a ceramics major with a painting second, that. So and then I also went down to University of Guadalajara when I was about 17 for about a couple of months. And then what other education, basically touring the world when I turned 30 for a year and a half, 45 different countries. I found that we all spoke in the same format, in the same language. Art was universal.
Growing up at El Sereno has influenced my work in multiple ways.
Being raised and grown up in Los Angeles has been the greatest reward I've ever had.
It influenced me in a way where I did appreciate like the big pieces, not the graffiti, but more like the big, mural type graffiti.
You grew up with the car culture. It's just part of being an LA person.
In the immediate, intimate way, around my family, there was always, I would say, music collections. Collections of vinyl records and album covers and things like that. And then also looking at album art, I think was influential in terms of wanting to draw or replicate something.
When I was younger, my teenagers, we used to skateboard or hitchhike up to Hollywood. And I used to see Hendrix and the Doors all over the place and Janis Joplin. And the police would chase at us, on the horseback and all that. So, it was I had a really exciting rock and roll, kind of like a hippie Hollywood growing up.
I would always study the colors and admire it. I can never really participate because my dad was very strict on us. So that kind of kept me, away from all that. But at the same time, I remember being in school and I would draw on piece books for friends. So whatever I would draw, they would go out there and tag. So I was kind of directly involved in tagging, but without me doing it.
That was part of the Low Star experience also. Lujan, was very much like me. We're kind of just East LA kids. And in the 40s and 50s, that's what you did. You drew cars, and you knew every car. That's a 51 Chevy. Gilbert and I started talking about it with Los Star, and I got really into it. And Gilbert's gone now, but I continued doing cars.
Basically within half a block from my house was an alley that I could walk that spanned maybe 4 blocks. There was graffiti, there were murals, there were murals of cartoons like a Bonk's Adventure, or product hand painted product advertisements. So I would hyper obsess with those all day. And then there was a mural by an artist named Peter Q. So having that just where I could easily just walk down and have a whole art kind of almost felt like a museum experience within a particular alley was highly inspiring.
In traveling around the world, I realized exactly what Los Angeles is and who we are. I love Los Angeles because I have my family is here. I think it's a great place to grow up. It's a journey of self-exploration. It always was a personal journey to creating graffiti. It was never about the fame or the money, even though graffiti culture became an art movement much, much later. But in the beginning, it was always about finding my own path.
The zen of the process, maybe after you're struggling to start something, but then you're kind of in the zone of play and willing to try things out, and there's music playing or something that can kind of help either guide or stimulate the experience. To be able to build community You know, there's, for example, here in the museum, there's a lot of artists I look up to, and for me, that's a special moment to like at least even be in conversation with them. I think that's a very special thing too.
To be here in the museum, to have very important people appreciate your work. Just being so lucky to be invited to be a founder of Goes, a founder of Los Dos Streetscapers. That's when just me and Wayne painted together. And then other artists saying, I want to be part of it. So we changed the name to East Los Streetscapers. And of course, my wife and family always giving me support.
Growing up in high school, my dad always had a good relationship with him. He was a hardworking guy. He passed away recently. Early on in high school, he didn't really support my artwork. He just didn't find reason to what I was doing. He was like, you're wasting your time. But little by little, he saw I was getting scholarships to go to art school. Cheech was buying my stuff, and he was always a big fan of Cheech and his movies. And then what finally did it is when I took a picture with Pepe Aguilar. I did a project with him. And then, not until then, he realized, like, well, I don't know what the hell you're doing, but it's like, I support you now. And I think that was probably one of the happier moments in my art career. He finally understood, like, you can make a living, you know, following your passion. I mean, he didn't have that luxury.
It's more about my mother. I hung out with these dudes in the garage all night. I was out in the streets doing things. And my mother never once questioned me or doubted me. She said her friends used to go, why do you let your daughter do that? What is she doing out there with those men? And she said she's making art. So a very meaningful experience is that I had a progressive mother who didn't question it, who supported me throughout my art career.
You know, the most gratifying was the Los Far exhibition at LACMA. Los Far was the first Chicano group to show in a major museum, and also Dreamland at Museum of Latin American Art, because before that, the owner of that museum only showed people from South to Central America. I was the first Chicano to show there.
Sometimes you look at art and you look at it and it touches you and it gives you an epiphany about your situation or an understanding about humanity. And in that moment, you're like, wow, I get it. That's when you know you've done your best work. For me, that standard is the most important as a reflection of who I am and of what my community is.